Welcome back to the TMBC Wake YouTube channel. Alright, so as you can tell from the first clip in this video, we've received our first snowfall for the year already, and that was actually in September. So it's definitely time to winterize my boat. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to winterize your wake boat. I'm going to specifically be working on my 2018 Malibu Wakesetter 24MXZ. This method should work on most Malibu boats with the Raptor engine between 2016 and 2018. The tips and advice I'm going to provide should apply to several wake boat situations beyond Malibu as well. I am not a certified mechanic. You should only do your own winterizations if you feel comfortable doing them yourself. That being said, with a little advice, I think most of you can handle your own boat winterization. You should always read your owner's manual and pay close attention to the steps provided in that manual on what you should do for winter layup. With Malibu, there's both a boat manual and an engine manual from Inmar, and both of those have sections covering winter layup. I'm not going to cover every single step in my video, although I will point out several things and the reasons why I'm doing certain steps I'm doing and not doing other steps that are recommended. A lot of winterization has to do with how you store your boat. If you store your boat in a heated garage or shop, then there are many of these winterization steps that will not apply. But I'll try to point that out as I go along. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is add fuel stabilizer. I got the Marine with vapor technology. That helps with the ethanol that comes in fuel these days. And this treats, this has instructions that tell you that 1 ounce treats 10 gallons. It's a 75-gallon fuel tank, so I'll need to add about 7.5 ounces. So you just take the cap off here and squeeze it, fill it up, and here's 1. Now I'm not going to do the extra half because I probably went over an ounce on a couple of those. The reason why I'm doing this first, adding the fuel stabilizer first, is because I'm going to run the engine to get some antifreeze in the system, specifically the shower on mine, and I want the last run of the boat to hopefully get some of that fuel stabilizer throughout the system, wherever the fuel is. And it's not going to do that if you don't run your engine after you've added this fuel stabilizer. The next step would be to change your oil if you need to run your engine to warm your oil before you remove the oil. So then you could do my next steps where I'm adding antifreeze and fogging the engine while you run the engine during your oil change. In this boat, I don't care about running the engine before I change my oil. So I am just choosing to do that step at a different time. And I'm not including my oil change steps in my winterization video because I already made a oil change video, which I will put a link in the description below so that you can get to that. And I'll also provide a link at the end of this video you can click on to get to that video. If you need to change your oil at this step, go ahead and exit this video to go watch my oil change video, and then you can come back to this video to watch the next steps. So one of the ways that you can run your engine without being in a lake or in a body of water is by using what's called a fake lake. It's basically a plunger looking tool. It has a place where you can hook the hose to it, a garden hose, and it also extends so that you can put it up against the bottom of your boat, where the intake is at, and I'm going to show that to you, and I'm going to show you how it works. So this guy right here is your intake for your cooling system. So what you would do, kind of kickstand it up against it, so like this, and you want to get it, I usually kink it off to the side a little bit, pull it out, tighten it, and then you put it directly underneath so that it sits like that. Show you a little closer. So now it's covering the whole intake, and then I would hook my hose up to there. All right, so my next step is I'm going to pull the shower out, turn it on, and I've got some RV antifreeze ready because I'm going to turn on the engine, and I'm going to be pouring the antifreeze into the intake, which on this boat, luckily I can do that right where the water filter is, as opposed to using the fake lake that I have. I haven't had to use the fake lake in the past, and when I have used the fake lake in the past, I will actually use a utility water pump to pump the antifreeze into the boat, so I don't have to worry about it trying to suck the fluid in. So in any case, I'm not going to have to use the fake lake. I have some antifreeze ready to go, as you can see right there, and when I put it into the boat, I'll show you that part of it. I'll have the camera set up so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to get the shower ready, and then that way I can do it all in one quick kind of moment. I'm also going to fog the engine right at the end, so I'm going to have all those things ready to go to be able to do that on the fly. So I'm going to put this into the on position, and I'm going to pull the shower out. So see that right there, I'm going to make sure that that is in the on position as well, so you can see the little tick mark right there. I'm going to put that on full blast now. Okay, I'm going to put that over the side of the boat so that it sprays that down. I'm going to try to point it out too. I'll probably just wipe down where it sprays onto the boat. This is the fogging oil I'm going to use. All I do with this fogging oil is I spray it into the air filter or air cleaner while the engine's running, and you'll start to kind of hear the engine choke. And once I do that, I'll just go turn off the engine really quick. Fogging oil is simply so that the inside of the cylinders is more protected for when there's no fuel going in and out of there, and it's not combusting, so the oil will protect the metal from, for example, rusting or corroding while it's not doing anything. All right, so the air cleaner on this is in the back, so I'm going to pop this off just to make it easier to get to it. So there's my air cleaner there. You can see it really isn't very dirty. It's got a little bit of dark on top, but it isn't very dirty. Boats don't usually get very dirty air cleaners because they're not driving in dust and things like that. So all I'll do is, you know, while the engine's running, I'll just spray this directly into there, and the engine should kind of choke a little bit, and I'll do that right at the end, and then I'll kill the engine. So there's my water filter. I just need to get this knob right here off. All right, the last things I'm going to do are I'm going to remove the plugs on the motor because on this motor it is a closed cooling system, which means that the heater has antifreeze going through it all the time. Most of the motor has antifreeze going through it all the time. There is raw water going through the engine, which basically acts as your radiator in this boat. So all you typically need to do for your motor, as far as water goes, and the rest of your boat, except for your shower, and depending on the options you have installed, and depending on the boat setup you have, is you just need to remove the plugs, which there are 4 on this one. I know I have worked on an Axis A22 that had 7 on it. So it all depends on your boat and the setup and the motor on your boat. I'm going to show you all the plugs, and basically as much as I can show you the location of the plugs on my engine, the Raptor engine, the Raptor 450, which should be similar or almost or maybe even the same. I know it's the same on the 410 Raptor engine, just not sure on the supercharged. And then this boat actually has a plug holder too, so I'll show that to you as well. And then I'm also going to look, I think I might disconnect a couple of hoses on the shower just to let that drain out, even though it has antifreeze in it, and I showed that to you. You know, it's always best to get as much fluid out of the or as much water as you can out of the boat, and engine cavities. So So underneath the shower panel, I did disconnect the valve hose, and there was only a little bit of antifreeze fluid in there. I also took the shower head off, and there wasn't any fluid, so I felt comfortable with how the shower was winterized. All right, so one of the last things that I do is I disconnect the batteries. It's not necessarily required that you disconnect your batteries. You could leave them hooked up, have the batteries turned off or the battery switch turned off. There are things in these boats that still pull a little bit of power, it seems, over time. It's small amounts, so as long as you're checking the status of your batteries somewhat frequently, maybe once a month or something like that, and then charging when needed, you might be fine. But I like to just pull the cables, and then I'll just come in and check the batteries anyways with my charger every couple of months or so. And then part of my summarization is that I will do a little bit of a charge on them. So I'm going to show you just disconnecting the batteries right now. Pretty simple, straightforward, but I'll just go ahead and show you. All right, so you notice that I disconnected the positive cable first and then the negative. And when I go to reconnect it, I would want to do it the opposite way. So connect the negative and then the positive. It will help keep from being grounding and shorting issues when you connect. So that's it. All right, so let's do a recap of the steps that I went through and that I suggest you go through on a boat winterization. So number one is fill your fuel tank to capacity. Although this isn't required, I do suggest it because it helps eliminate moisture or vapors that can collect inside your fuel tank and then can do future damage to your engine. And this has become more important now with the introduction of ethanol into fuel. You can always run the high octane with no ethanol, but you still have the chance of collecting moisture or vapor. And that can also depend on what type of climate your boat's in. For example, if it's stored at the lake or on the water, it can be more prone to collecting moisture in the fuel tank. I also like to keep my fuel tank full. I always fill up on the way home from the lake, and that helps me get on the water faster. Number two, add fuel stabilizer. That's going to help your fuel keep from breaking down over time. Generally fuel stabilizer is suggested for any fuel that's going to sit for periods longer than a month. So if you're storing your boat for longer than a month, you probably need to add fuel stabilizer. Number three, change your oil. Depending on whether or not you want to warm up your oil before you change it, this may or may not need to be done as the third step. I did my oil change after I did most of my winterization. The only thing that I did after my oil change is disconnect the batteries. And again, I put a link in the description below for my oil change video if you need help with that. I also am going to put a link at the very end of this video that you can click on. Number four is you either need to use a fake lake or be able to hook up some sort of hose or device to your intake so that if you are going to run your engine, whether it be to change your oil or in my situation so that I could add antifreeze to my shower and also fog my engine so that I could keep the engine cool while I was doing those things. So you can either use a fake lake or if your boat has the ability, you can hook a hose directly to your intake where the water filter is. Number five is fog the engine. Fogging the engine helps keep your cylinders from corroding while sitting and not having fuel running through it and not combusting. This is most important in environments where you have high humidity or you store your boat on the water or something to that effect where moisture can creep in and cause rust or other corrosion to the inside of your cylinders. I sprayed my fogging oil directly into the air cleaner, which is sufficient for me. And if you live in an area that has high humidity or you store your boat on the lake, I would suggest pulling each spark plug and spraying it into each cylinder. Number six is pull your drain plugs if your motor is equipped with drain plugs. If your motor is not equipped with drain plugs, then you need to make sure that on step 4 you are running antifreeze through your motor or through your engine to make sure that there is no water left and it is replaced with antifreeze. I've had to do that on some of the older boats I've owned. But if you have drain plugs, then there really is no need for antifreeze. I actually just put antifreeze in my shower because I wasn't completely sure that I would be able to get to every cavity to blow it out. But to tell you the truth, when I was done, I saw the results of running my shower until it was empty. I think maybe next year I won't worry about adding antifreeze to my shower. But in any case, you will need to pull any drain plugs on your motor. Every engine is different. Like I said, on my Inmar Raptor engine, there's 4 drain plugs. On an Axis, I think it's a 2018 Axis A22, there's 7 drain plugs. So you need to make sure you pay attention to your owner's manual to determine what you have for plugs. And that takes me to number 7. You will either need to remove the water or add antifreeze to any optional equipment on your boat that uses water. If your engine is not a closed cooling system and it uses raw water to cool the entire engine, then that means if you have a heater equipped on your boat, then your heater is using the heated up water off the engine to produce heat in the boat. So you would need to either disconnect the heater hoses to drain the heater core, or you need to make sure that antifreeze is getting up through the heater. Maybe run your heater while you're running the engine to add antifreeze. Also, you saw me adding antifreeze for my shower, and then I actually opened up some hoses and took the shower head off, and I actually made sure it was drained after that as well. So any options that would use water such as those, you need to make sure that they're either drained or you add antifreeze to them. Number 8 is disconnect your batteries. This is optional, and if you have a 4-month off season, it may not be so necessary. I have a 6-month off season, and for a lot of people in Montana, it's a lot more than that. But for a 6-month off season, I still like to disconnect my batteries because there is a lot of times in the newer vehicles these days, they're still pulling some bit of power. So if you're not using your boat for a while, it could just sit there and drain. And batteries just lose power over time as well. So I just choose to disconnect my batteries, and then I'll just check them every couple months. And at the least, in the spring, I will check the status of them, and then I will charge them if needed before I go out for my first time. And last but not least, number 9 is clean your boat, clean everything. So this step is sort of up to you and how you like to keep your boat, but I will tell you, if you clean your boat for winter storage, it's going to help from whether it's stains or mildew or water spots. It's going to help those from becoming permanent, and also if there is mildew or mold starting to grow in places, you can attack those and make sure it's not growing over the off season. And that would be really important in humid environments or where you store your boat on the water. My scenario is an insulated garage, so it stays dry, and it actually rarely gets below freezing, but I still winterize it just in case. And even if you have a heated shop or a heated garage, I think it's best if you do at least some winterization, because you never know, the power could go out. And I have seen the power go out many times in my life during the coldest parts of the winter. So you just want to be prepared. But in any case, you want to clean the trailer, clean the wheels, clean the exterior of the boat, clean the interior of the boat. Make sure that there's not any wet life jackets hanging around. I usually pull my life jackets out and hang them up for the off season, things like that. And then waxing is sort of up to you. In my case, I'm going to try a ceramic product, and I'm not going to do that till the spring. My boat is all cleaned up, and because I store it inside of a garage, I'm not worried about it getting anything on it over the off season that I would need wax for to repel. But I do want it to have a fresh coat of wax or sealant before I start going out next year. And I'm going to try a ceramic product, and I will definitely report back to you guys with what the results are on that. So that's it. Those are the things I think are important to do for winterization on a wake boat. Now, depending on how you store your boat and what type of climate you live in, those things can vary a little bit, and you just got to try to be intuitive and take the steps necessary in those environments. Obviously, if your boat sits in the water all off season, then you're going to deal with several more things. An ideal situation is some sort of indoor storage where it's dry. But there's even going to be a big difference between a boat that's stored on land outside all winter compared to being in a garage and being dry. I would highly suggest that if you have to store your wake boat, your nice wake boat, outdoors, that you get it shrink wrapped, or maybe contact your dealer, because most dealers have an indoor storage that you can rent for the off season. Because I can tell you that as far as resale value, a boat that has been stored outside and a boat that has been stored inside, you're going to notice the differences immediately. So obviously anything that's stored outside The elements, the sun, rain, dust, all those things are gonna quickly deteriorate your boat. You can make your boat live a much longer life if it's stored properly. If you're not sure about things on your boat, whether it be where drain plugs are and whether or not you have certain options that use water, or just things in general about winterization specific to your boat, you should always go to your dealer. Chances are you can talk to your service department at your dealer and they'll be able to give you some advice on how to get to the drain plug, or whether or not you need to disconnect the hoses from your heater, or those types of things. I ask questions to my dealer all the time, and that's how I find out a lot of information myself. As I've bought different boats and had to do oil changes and winterizations on the different boats and the different situations, obviously things have changed, and usually I'll at least get some of that information of where to find a component or what to do with a certain component by just talking to the service department of my dealer. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, please leave comments, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. We'll see you next time.